Are you clicking it or am I?
I can't click it. Oh, I can. I'll do it.
Okay, I'll do it. I'll host. Hello.
Hello, everyone. Just a reminder to people, if you can please just let us know where you're from. If you can let us know your role and your name, that'd be great. Just a little intro in the chat. That's really helpful for us.
Hi. It's nice to see people. I like the webinar functionality because it makes it all like easier as a presenter, but you do miss seeing people's faces. So if you feel like you can, please do put your video on because it's lovely seeing faces. Hello, everybody.
I have to say we had a session this morning where we had live kittens on the week-old kittens on the on the screen. So no pressure for bringing out all the stops on this one. So.
A 10 out of 10 don't have live kittens, and my cat's really aggressive, so I have to lock him out when I'm doing sessions because otherwise he climbs all over the screen, and then if I ignore him, gets cross and does scratchy things or eats wires in protest.
Anna, if you're interested in finding out about the kittens, you can watch the session by Zoe in Phoenix Creative, and it's towards the end on the replay if you want to have a look at a very, very cute kitten.
Oh my gosh. Just while we're waiting for people to join, because we'll start in a couple of minutes, have a think, because we're going to do this. I'm going to talk to you for a little bit, and then you're going to talk to each other in breakout rooms. So fair warning, I'm going to ask you to think about something that's been really good, that's been like an innovation or something that you found like a cool thing that's happened, hopefully work related, but I'm not going to police it. So that you can share that with each other. And then the other thing I'm going to ask you to share with each other is like a problem or a puzzle, something you're struggling with a little bit that you want to chat through with other people. They don't have to be mega complicated stuff, and ideally work related stuff, but have a little think while we're waiting just for people to join in. And then when we get into that discussion bit, you can be the prepared one that's got something to say. And if you're introducing yourselves in the chat, and if your role isn't self-explanatory by the title, then please do explain what your title means, because we don't have the luxury in Students' Unions of all having the same titles across SUs. So sometimes, I mean, Megan, President of Winchester, that's pretty self-explanatory. But some of the other ones might need a little bit more explanation. And it's always nice to learn about other people's jobs.
Great stuff. Got Ellie Russell in the call. That's fantastic. Sorry, just some people that I haven't seen or spoken to in an awful long time. So so it's great to see such a wide selection of people in this call, as there is in most of the calls. Hopefully you are finding SU20 digital of some use. For those that this is their first session, hopefully the only way is up.
It's way too humble. Sell. The conference has been brilliant.
And obviously this is really looking towards the future for us, bringing everyone together next year for UK City of Culture, and welcoming everyone to the fantastic city that is Coventry, and seeing everyone in person. So it's with great delight that I get to introduce Rosie, the founder of Organised Fun. If you don't know about them, they are the home of student opportunities. So that includes student fundraising, societies, sport, anything that is an opportunity for a student, really.
I'm going to test you then on your
I know, don't
the
test
different
me.
bits of student opportunities.
So so yeah, I'll hand over to Rosie, and I hope you have a great session. please tune in tomorrow and Friday for some more sessions. And if you've missed any sessions, obviously you can have a look at those on replay. Over to you, Rosie.
Thank you. And thanks, Matt. Matt's been working incredibly hard, very much behind the scenes of this conference, not necessarily presenting lots of stuff. So he's been very humble, saying, I hope you're having an okay time, because I think everybody has been having a good time. It's been a really useful opportunity for people. So stop being so humble. Thank you, Matt. If anybody can find the clapping emoji, give Matt a little clap with the reactions. I just love the reactions, so as much as you can, use the reactions. If you haven't already, please do introduce yourself in the chat. If you feel like being smug with Zoom, you can find the little dots, I find them above my face, and you can actually change your name on Zoom, so that's quite fun. And I like to change that, although you can't actually see my full name or anything on there. So, you know, fun tool. So as I said to people when they were joining, this session isn't going to be just me talking at you for an hour. It's kind of like a community of practice space. So if anybody's ever been to a community of practice, we'll run in a similar way to that. So those run, I think they run all over the country. I used to be involved in them when I worked at NUS, but I'm not so involved now. So you'll have to let me know in the chat if communities of practice are still kind of carrying on in the same way. But for those of you that don't know what that is, basically it's an opportunity for people who work and in a similar role across the UK to talk to each other, share ideas, help each other out. I will be here and I'll talk to you for a little bit about some stuff, and then we'll go into, we've got the fun breakout rooms feature on Zoom, so I've got that already, and we'll send you off randomly into rooms to talk to each other with a couple of topics of discussion. So be thinking now about something that's been good. Maybe it's something that your students have run, or maybe it's something that you've tried as an SU that worked really well, or something that you've done personally that's been a positive of the last few months. And then something that's a bit of a puzzle, a bit tricky, or a problem. Hopefully you'll get time to share that with everybody in the breakout group that we put you in. And then what I'm hoping to be able to do is for us all to come back and have a bit of a chat about themes if we have time. So before we get started, Matt introduced me earlier, so I'll just do briefly the bit of like the spiel bit. So I'm from Organised Fun. We're a teeny tiny team. There's myself and Jamie Robinson, who does more of our kind of operational work, and then we have a couple of associate consultants who work with us doing cool student opportunity stuff. We have existed for about a year and a half, and before then I was a national consultant for the National Union of Students. I left there in January last year, and since then have been running Organised Fun. Organised Fun started as a consultancy, so getting clients, mostly students' unions, sometimes universities and colleges, to pay us to help fix problems, basically. That's how we started. And then a few months into being that, sort of quietly called Rosie Hunnam Consultancy, we realised when I was doing a focus group with some students with Jamie, we realised that actually there's a bigger need here, and that we need to do more than that. We need to do more than kind of paid consultancy. So now we're a two-pronged organisation, but there's still not that many of us doing it. So we're quite busy. But basically what we do is we do paid consultancy. People pay us to fix problems, to help with training, to write strategies for them, to support their staff team and officers. And then we dedicate a certain amount of time every month to doing kind of community building work. So basically what we want to be able to do is to provide a home for staff, officers and student volunteers who are operating within student opportunities. So that's within student media, volunteering, fundraising, societies, sport and all that other fun stuff. So that's who we are and what we do. In terms of the community building stuff, that's doing things like this. So we go to conferences, albeit virtually at the moment, talk to people, offer free or very cheap access to training and support. And that's where this kind of stuff comes in. And I encourage you to think about if there's any other thing else like this that you would find useful. Can't promise that we can deliver it immediately, but it's really interesting for us to know what sort of stuff would be supportive and helpful for you as the people who operate in this world. So thinking caps on, always happy to hear ideas, even if you're not sure how it would work. So in this session, as I said, it's pretty collaborative. So you don't go to sleep, because we're going to be talking to you in a minute about some stuff. I've broken it down into 4 bits. So I'll talk a little bit about what's changed since the start of lockdown, and talk to you then about what now and what's happening for everybody right now, and the themes that are coming up when talking to students' unions. And then we'll go into some discussion groups, and then at the end we'll spend 5 minutes kind of feeding back from those discussion groups, talking about themes and talking about any ideas you've got for other stuff in the future that would be helpful to help you to keep student opportunities going in these like really weird, tricky, I hate this word, unprecedented times. Yes, someone laughed. It's really annoying. That word just keeps coming up. So what's changed? Oh no, bingo. I hope nobody's playing a drinking game. It's 3 o'clock, you're all at work. You're definitely not playing a drinking game. What's changed? It has been 4 months since we did a session like this. So in mid-March, when lockdown was kind of kicking off and everybody was freaking out and what on earth are we doing? How do I work from home? All that stuff. We ran a session like this with SU Skills, a pitch-in session. So kind of similar format to this. And that was 4 months ago, which is ridiculous. Since then, there's been all sorts of back and forth change in our sector, but also in the UK more broadly. There has been loads of really tricky, difficult stuff going on. There's been some positive stuff in that we hosted the Student Opportunities Festival a few weeks ago, and that was great. And that was purely reactive to what's been happening in the UK with lockdown and with coronavirus. So there's been some good stuff, but it's been tricky. And I'm sure a lot of you are feeling a little bit tired and like maybe a bit frazzled and perhaps not feeling the way you normally would, looking forward to going off on holidays over summer and stuff. So this session's all about supporting each other and making things feel a little bit easier and sharing some ideas for the future. In that session 4 months ago, I wrote this, and it stands just as much now. So just a reminder, you are not superhuman, but you are brilliant. And as a community, we can support each other to make things a bit easier. And we organise fun. And I know like Matt would be happy for me to say this, like Matt and the team at Coventry who've put this on, everybody really enjoys helping each other and working together. So I encourage you not to just be alone in struggling or worrying about how to fix a problem, because inevitably if you've got it at one end of the country, someone else at the other end of the country is probably puzzling the same thing. So one of the things that hopefully will come out of our discussions in a minute is how good you are at helping fix each other's problems and make things feel less stressful. What else has happened actually before we go on to what now? There has been lots of uncertainty in the university and college sector, and I know that lots and lots of students' union people that I've been talking to are just at this point where you're having to make plan A, plan B and plan C at the moment, which is tricky. There's some nods I can see from people, and that is difficult and not necessarily something that's easy to deal with. But that's what's been going on. What's going on for everybody now? So if you can, do the little clapping emoji if one of these things has come up on your agenda over the last few weeks, just in terms of like seeing how much of a problem it is for different people. Who has had pressure from their institution to put on a freshers fair or a welcome fair? Say something in the chat or do the clapping emoji if that's you, if that's happened for you. Yeah, a couple of you are saying that. That's been a pretty common thing that I've been talking to students' unions about over the past 3 to 4 weeks. There seems to be a huge need from the institution to do a fair. Who has budget cuts on the horizon, or potential budget cuts, not necessarily knowing what they are? Who has seen students do something really cool, like put on a really cool event or an interesting activity on a bit more of a positive note? Good. If you've got any of those that you want to share, pop them in the chat, because it's always really interesting to hear from each other about what's been going on. Who is puzzling about whether you'll have spaces big enough for student opportunities to actually meet in September, October time? Has anyone managed to solve that problem yet? Has anybody's institution told you which spaces you're allowed to use yet? No. Okay. So what I'm saying, I'm not doing this to make everybody miserable. I'm doing this to show you that lots and lots of you are struggling with similar stuff. Anna's put that this was a problem before COVID, let alone now. Different musical societies ran a 24-hour sing-a-thon for the NHS. That is lovely. Good. Okay, so there's some positives here. Sports teams have raised 12.5k for NHS Hampshire hospitals. That's amazing. So good. There's some good stuff. Okay, so what in terms of what now? What else? The one thing I kind of wanted to talk to you about before we get into the discussion groups, and for anybody that's been kind of involved in student opportunities for a while, and anybody that worked with me when I was at NUS, we talked a lot about impact, and I don't think we cracked it. And I think one of the things that's keeping me up at night at the moment is, because that's kind of sad person that I am, I worry about student unions at bedtime, I know, but genuinely I've been worrying about the fact that we're talking a lot about teaching and learning and how students are going to do that and enjoy it and get something out of it. And I'm not saying that's not important. It's absolutely fundamental that we get that right, and that as unions we support our students and we work with our institutions to get that right. The kind of the next rung down is around student well-being, and that's a really, really clear priority. And there's lots of other things that are clear priorities. One of the things that's troubling me is that I'm hearing from a lot of student unions that they're being called upon to provide this full, wonderful, brilliant student experience. And then almost in the same breath or in the next meeting, there's question marks over like how important student opportunities are. And 1 or 2 student unions have actually had conversations with me in the past few weeks about like genuine conversations with senior management saying, well, we can't do opportunities now, can we? And that worries me, because I genuinely think we can do student opportunities. And on Monday at Comms by the Coast, so the other conference that's running alongside this, I did a session there about how you can create really positive relationships but not necessarily use the same formats. We did a session at the Student Opportunities Festival about running cool online events. So that I've talked quite a lot about the things we can do over the last few weeks and ideas for that. And by all means, I'll share those links with you later. But you can share those with your students too. Where I think we've got a bit of a fight on our hands in student opportunities, and I don't use that term lightly because it's really not my kind of comfortable place to be in, that fighting place. But where I do think we've got a bit of a fight on our hand, and something that we all need to think about, is demonstrating our impact really well, and demonstrating the impact of what we do in societies and what we do in sport, and the things that our students get out of that, and the difference that our students make in the world through student opportunities. Because I think we've all said that there's budget cuts on the horizon, that there's a lot of uncertainty about the future of our sector. And what I would hate to see is student opportunities being put at the bottom of the pile of priorities. Not because I think it's more important than teaching and learning, but I think because it goes hand in hand with teaching and learning, and what we haven't cracked as a sector yet, and I'm super, super interested to hear people's ideas about how we can be better at this collectively, is telling people about the difference that we make through student opportunities and the difference that it makes to students' lives. So my kind of one big, if you take nothing away from this session, it is to, when you're thinking about the next thing that you're thinking about in terms of student opportunities, thinking about the difference that opportunity makes to the student that's involved, and also to their community of other students, or to sustainability agenda, or to combating loneliness, for example, because I think we need to be really sure of that for ourselves so that we can help other people to see that too. So that's my kind of my call to action bit that I wanted to talk to you all about. What I'd like to do now is I'm going to put you into discussion groups. So if no one's done this before, don't be nervous. It works well. It's fun. What we'll do is I've got a breakout rooms function on Zoom, and I can automatically put you in different breakout rooms, and I'm going to try and put those and put you in kind of 4 or 5 rooms and see how that works. And I encourage you to, if you feel comfortable, turn your video on, unmute yourself. And what I would love you to chat about, we've got about half an hour of the full session. So we'll say for 10 minutes, to 10 to 15 minutes, we'll talk to each other and share something good. So share a good news story. If your mic or your video doesn't work, by the way, that's okay. Like, don't leave, because you can still join in through the chat. But if you can, unmute yourself and go and put your video on, because it's really nice to see each other. Say hi to each other, introduce yourself, and then take it in turns to share a good news story, and then something that's a little bit of a puzzle or a problem. And then I encourage you to help solve that problem together as a group. And one of the things that's easier if you do this is, if someone makes a suggestion, rather than combat that suggestion with, oh, well, I don't think that will work because X, or yeah, we tried that and it didn't work, just accept that advice, accept that feedback. And also try and keep your ideas and your responses succinct. So say, for example, someone saying, I don't know how we're going to have that kind of relationship with our student leaders, because normally they just pop into the office to get problems solved. And then one suggestion might be, well, you could arrange one-to-one meetings with all of the presidents. Another suggestion could be that you will have drop-in times where you have a Zoom room or a Google Hangout or a Teams call open for your student committees to join in at a time that's convenient for them. And you'll get kind of 3 or 4 suggestions to your problem, and hopefully you'll come out of the conversation with some ideas, some things that you could do to help fix that problem. And then at the end of the session, what we'll do is have a bigger kind of group discussion to pick up on if there were any themes from your discussion group. So is there something that's coming up a lot? And if anybody's got any ideas for things that we could do together in the future that could help us to work together on keeping student opportunities going. So I ask you in your discussion group to nominate someone who's comfortable to feedback to everybody. Does that make sense to everyone? Just unmute yourself or write in the chat if you want any clarity on what you're going to be doing for the next 10 to 15 minutes. Lovely. The silence suggests that you understand. Right, so I'm going to put you into breakout rooms now. And I'm going to do it so there's like 5 people per room. Yeah, 4 to 5 people per room. I will write the discussion group topics back out to you because I can send you that in a message. And I encourage you to get chatting. So think of something that's been your good news story, your highlight, or something that's gone well in the last few months. And then think of something that's a bit of a problem. Nominate someone who can feedback to the rest of the group for you on behalf of your little group. And then get chatting to each other for 10 to 15 minutes. you can private message me if you've got any problems, or if you've forgotten what you're supposed to be doing, or if you've run out of things to talk about. I'm going to send you off to your rooms now. Are you ready? Go. Go. Should be working. This is very exciting. Hi. Hello, everybody's coming back. Hi. We're just waiting for everybody else to join. Everybody's just creeping back into the right space. Creeping back sounds awful. Sorry, you're not creepers. There's 20 seconds and then it'll force boot everybody out of their breakout rooms. I've just learned how to do this breakout rooms thing, so I'm really enjoying it. It's ever so fun. Oh, lovely. And it keeps the list for me. Handy. Okay. So I popped in to see your chats. So it's good to see you chatting. Hopefully you quickly got over that awkward, oh, this is a bit weird moment, and you managed to get into some good chats with each other. We'll just do a little bit of feedback from each session. So don't give me the full run through of what you talked about because we'll be here for 4 hours. But just give kind of like 1 or 2 themes that came out of your meeting that were things that came up from the discussions. And then if you manage to get around to it in terms of discussions, like did anybody have any ideas of stuff that could improve this either collectively that we could do together, or if someone had a really good idea that you're like, everyone needs to know about this idea because it was great. So I'll start with group 1. So do you know which groups you are in? Can you see this information? Yes, great. So who's the spokesperson from group 1?
I think Aisha, maybe.
Oh, hello. Hi, guys. So we kind of got really into our group and we were just talking about everything. And one of our good stories is the fact that we had online celebrations of different awards and different groups. And that created a lot of engagement for my union and a lot of other unions that we spoke about. And the issues that we're facing, I think it's a national issue, was about tuition fees, basically. It kind of arises from, well, I kind of raised the question was like the problem that we're facing as a union is whether to charge our student groups membership fees or not in the coming year for the first term. And then that kind of led to tuition fees. So I think what was suggested was to look into the NUS student safety net. That came up earlier in the week, and just kind of taking it from there, getting in touch with them, see what they have to offer. And they can explain it a lot better than I can because I only know bits and bobs, but that's what we discussed. Guys, did I miss anything? I'll take the silence as a no.
That sounds good. So your kind of issue was less of a student opportunities issue and more of a wider issue that then relates to opportunities due to the charging problem. Pitch to a session I did yesterday, if you didn't see it, about to charge or not to charge. I know some of you were in there, but the recording's on the conference website, so if you missed it, basically went through. The short story is that you probably can still charge, but you need to be a bit more careful about that charging and work with your groups on it. Okay, thank you. Perfect example of feedback. So group 2, who's the spokesperson for group 2?
That is me. Hello.
Hello.
So we picked 2 things that we talked about. We kind of really got into it and we're just chatting about anything and everything. But 2 of the things that came up the most was kind of space constraints and resource restraints. So we were talking about, spaces that we might usually use being kind of taken back by the university and used for teaching spaces, or big open spaces that you might have used before not being able to be used because of one-way systems and stuff. I talked about how Winchester's campus is incredibly resource restrained because we're basically landlocked by everything around us. We have nowhere else to go. We talked about that. We talked a little bit about kind of nullifying that conversation by this is a great example of getting over space constraints because we're all here from all different corners of the country and even internationally, and this is a great tool, and it doesn't cost a huge amount of money. So that's one conversation. We also talked about perhaps sometimes there's not a need to overcomplicate things if you can figure it out by getting everyone on Zoom. Whilst it's not the same as meeting in person, it's a good kind of substitute in the short run.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were a couple of things we talked about, but about space constraints. And the next one was about how obviously, everyone's trying their best to work together to try and solve lots of issues, all different types of issues. But we talked about actually sometimes it moves on from having conversations and kind of working with people to kind of lobbying and being a lot more kind of forceful is probably not the right word to use, but kind of a less of a I want to work with you on this and more of a kind of we want to work with you, but this is what we need and this is the only way that it will work. And also sometimes being very blunt and saying, okay, if you can't, this kind of came back to space constraints as well. If you can't give us this space, this won't happen, so students won't have it. And that's how it is, And we also talked about how sometimes the most difficult people to work with are kind of senior management and governors and things like that. So sometimes having those really, I'm seeing so many people nodding when I said that, like sometimes being that kind of blunt and to the point and using kind of more lobbying tactics can be the best way to work with them. But those are two kind of main points.
Lovely, thank you. And I think it's really interesting. So not usually, that's terrible English. Usually in opportunity sessions, we don't talk lobbying. We don't talk like, actually, let's be cross about this. And I think people are cross about lots of things at the moment, so it may not be appropriate, but you're totally right, that group 2 about we don't need to just have a conversation about this. Like we could work together to do something bigger than that, which is exciting. Thank you. Okay, group 3. Who's the spokesperson? Maybe they've gone. Okay, let's go to group 4. What? Oh, Polly. I think Polly's being nominated.
Oh, sorry, it's me. My internet is rubbish. So it properly like roboted through everybody just then and then kicked me out, which was really helpful.
No. What were the themes from your chat?
So our themes, we generally chatted about how impressed we were with engagement from students over this period of time. We thought that actually it might have just dropped off a cliff, but I think because everyone was quite bored, we actually got a good kind of relationship with student groups, particularly over things like Zoom chats and one-to-one engagements like that. And our big issue that we talked about was engaging with international students, because there's such kind of uncertainty whether international students are even going to be back in their city of study. Yeah. How we keep hold of those students, and also about if we're doing lots of online stuff, how do we make sure that that's accessible for everybody, with things like internet connections and having the right tech to be able to interact involved in those opportunities.
Yeah, really good point. Thank you for that. Group 4, what were your themes? Who's your spokesperson?
That'll be me.
Hello.
Hi. So we spoke about the limited space that we have on campus to deliver like sports and societies, and whether we'd be actually able to encourage them to use like off-campus facilities, and whether we'd be able to. We also spoke about probably prioritising like inter-hall competition rather than like bucks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Also the differences in the being able to deliver like sports sessions and stuff in semester 1 or semester 2. There was quite a difference between our group. So we were able to deliver in semester 1, whereas others couldn't. We also spoke about like the online delivery and like esports, stuff like that.
Yeah.
As well as like finding that a lot of our sports clubs and societies have been quite proactive in like delivery online already. So for semester 1, that'd be quite good.
Great. Yeah, that's a good idea. Esports. And the book session yesterday, they talked about Bucks' approach to bringing back sport, but I thought the kind of principles behind that, whether you have sport in your remit or not, was really interesting. So I encourage you to watch that one back again. The first half an hour was all about like Bucks' approach, and then they opened it up. So if you've only got half an hour, it's really useful. Group 5, what were your themes?
So we started off with talking about satellite campuses and how some universities are actually giving a damn about them now, and the arguments that they've kind of put to no, we can't provide additional support have just fallen apart. So there's a couple of satellite campuses, Christchurch and Glasgow. They are getting a lot more support at the moment, which is really great. And then we moved on to talking a bit about inspiration for online and social distance activities that groups can work on and develop. So we talked about getting students together in like breakout rooms and getting them to peer support and work out each other's problems and sound them off of ideas. Bath particularly, we're really struggling. Students are going, we can't play hockey, so we're not going to be able to do anything all year. So we're trying to help them sort of resolve that.
Mm-hmm.
And we moved on to talk about engagement, and while some of us have had like really high engagement with committee members speaking to members of staff, some of us have had really poor engagement with like nominating for elections, and part of that might have been when they elections took place, so we talked about ways that we can all right, my mind's gone blank. We talked about where by-election burnout, if we've done multiple ones.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about Bath, we're trying to build in co-opting into society constitutions. While that's not a short-term resolution for now, it could be something that will really help us in the future to not do 5 by-elections in one time.
Yeah, good point. Really good point. I think this is a place where you can all cut yourselves a little bit of slack, and I wouldn't expect you're going to get the same engagement levels as you would get usually, and that's okay. But having some level of engagement and knowing that some students are able to do things, and there might be different things that pop up that aren't the old things, and that's all right. So be kind to yourselves on that one, because it is tricky. Finally, just before we finish, I know we're close to time, Matt, so group 6, themes from your chat. Group 6, are you still there?
I think we were maybe flipping the coin on who was going to be the voice, and
Well,
it appears I caved first. So one of the key issues that came up in a couple of our points was in terms of communications. If they're going to be on campus less, if they're seeing less of the physical, digi screens, posters, anything we've got up, and it's all online or through email, begins to get a bit clogged up. So how do we ensure our message is still reaching them? And also in terms of those big messages, I think we sort of come to the resolution about just being explicit, because we're all currently waiting on higher ups to let us know, what can we have these facilities? What is our funding? How much spacing do we have to have between people? But just being explicit about, even if we don't know, that reassurance has been quite a positive force at the moment.
Yeah.
We're all on the same boat, just waiting. But as soon as we know, we'll let you know.
Yeah.
I'm doing sort of emails in terms of like quite big updates, cram it all in there, because if you're getting 10 from the union and you go, oh, just another one, file it away. But if it's one, then one big fat email, then there's going to be something in there for you. You might have to seek it out.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is there's lots of back-end stuff that we're all trying to get on with, whilst working remotely, things that maybe we didn't have the time to before, such as Gaz from Bangor was saying, like changing website platforms, and lots of students wanting to make changes. but not quite being at that point yet.
Yeah, all that normal, we'll do that in summer work. Yeah, loads of laughing, you all know that feeling. Great, thank you. Thanks so much for doing that. I know it was quick fire because we only had an hour, but hopefully it was nice to talk to somebody from somewhere else. That's always fun. If you want something like this again, just let me know. I'm happy to facilitate it, like outside of a conference space. If it's a useful thing to do and people will turn up, then happy to help and be the person that bosses you around and tells you you've got a minute left. Also, I'll just share my screen again just before we wrap up because it's got contact details on it and stuff. So what's next? How can you carry on supporting each other? Hopefully you had a nice chat then, and we might be able to do something like this again in the future. I really encourage you to not get stuck on your own. I loved this picture of this little balloon on its own because it's like, it's cute. But yeah, my contact details are at the bottom. Well, the social media and the website. On the website, there's a form that you can fill in on the contact us page, and I encourage you to do that. Like, if you have an idea for something that could help you or could help others in the student opportunities community, even if you're not sure how it will work, get in touch and let me know, because there might be someone else who's had a similar idea and I can connect you up with them, or it might be something that we can help facilitate. I'm not in there. You don't have to only contact me if you want to pay Organised Fund to do some work. You can contact us if you have ideas for how things could be better, or if you've got a problem. We're not going to be like, oh, okay, great, well, I'm not going to talk to you unless you pay me money. It's not about that. I really like connecting people to each other and helping you to solve problems together, and I think that we're in a really useful space to be able to do that stuff online without it really costing anybody any money. So encourage you to do that. If anybody has any other questions or anything like that, either pop them in the chat now and I can pick up with you afterwards, or connect with us on social media, or email me. My email address is super easy. It's rosie@organised.fun. So really happy to chat to people outside of this and help you to keep student opportunities going. So thanks everybody for participating. Thanks Matt and the team from Coventry for hosting us today. And I hope everybody has a lovely rest of your days and gets to join in with some other cool sessions. Bye.